Hey guys, Valeros here from the Arc Trade Federation. Today we'll be going over the S Vivarium and how to passively collect resources from this amazing structure. Alright, so in order to unlock the Vivarium, you'll need to be level 99, I'm pretty sure. Yep, level 99. It is fairly cheap to craft once you're higher level and you have crops and stuff set up. It takes 50 absorbent substrate, 100 element, and 10 mind wipe tonics. So if you're a new player starting out, let's say you have access to Fjordor, or like you're on the island to do a couple alpha broodmother fights, or I think it's one alpha broodmother fight, you should be able to get enough element to do this, or to make one of these. I would recommend getting one of these just to start with, and you will need an aggregator. The aggregator is the only way to pool resources from the Vivarium, and the aggregator will also deposit them into dead storage for you. Or it'll just pull in here if you haven't unlocked dead storage yet. As you can see, I have some resources in here from my aggregator, or from my Vivariums already. So let's see what we need for the aggregator, since we're going to need one of those as well. You'll need to be level 72, 125 electronics, 350 ingots, and 125 polymer. And then of course the regular dead storage that you get from doing, I think it's Gamma Dragon or Beta Dragon. Beta Dragon, I'm pretty sure. But you will also need the S Plus dedicated storage if you planned on transferring the items out of your aggregator. You don't have to if you don't want to. You can leave them in the aggregator. I like to transfer mine out though, otherwise the aggregator will fill up real fast. But we're going to start with our Vivarium here. We're going to come over here and grab a Bronto, if I have one in here. Bronto, and I don't know if I have a water dino in here. The reason why I'm looking for this, because I already have a Griffin in my inventory. You can put herbivores, carnivores, and water dinos in here, and each of them will give you different resources. At the end of the video, I'll have the resources that you can get from each dino. It'll explain it a little bit better than I'll be able to. That way I don't have to sit here for the first 5 minutes of video rattling off the resources that you can get. But let's just go ahead and start with this. You have your Vivarium. It is currently set to the island. Whenever you place it, it is set to the island. You can change it to Scorched Earth, and you can change it to Aberration. If you put a T-Rex in here, let's say, and you have it set to Aberration, you will get a set amount, or a set resources from that. So let's go ahead and throw my Bronto in here, and we'll be able to see the generated resources. So we get mushrooms, green gems, mayhos, thatch, and tintos from Aberration. Let's change it to the island and see what we get. Azul berries, citronella, fiber, rare flowers, and wood. So each map you transfer this to, or change this to, can give you different resources. Now every time you change this, it does affect the counter. As you can see right down here, it generates resources every 15 minutes and 20 seconds. But in order for this to generate those resources, and in order for us to collect them, you have to have your aggregator set up. You have to go to your collection options. You have to tell it to pull from Vivarium. And if you have dead storages, you want to have your distribution set to upload to dead storage. That way your aggregators stay empty. If you don't want to do that, like I said, you don't have to if you don't have dead storages yet, but that is what I have mine set to. And let's say you were going through here and you didn't want some of these resources. So let's view generated resources again. Let's say I didn't want flint and stone on here. What I could then do, as long as I had them in my inventory or my aggregator had them in its inventory, I could go over here to my aggregator, go to collection options, and go to ignore list, and I can add stone and flint to that ignore list. So it will not pull those resources. They'll just disappear off into the yonder. I currently have 2 aggregators set up to ignore all dino eggs. I do not want these 2 aggregators pulling dino eggs or large feces. I have other aggregators set to pull the eggs and the feces, so I don't want these 2 doing it. These are just my resource aggregators. And I have 2 of them because I have so many upstairs in my base. But that is how to set to ignore resources. So if you have this set to the Griffin, for example, which can give you element shards in the Vivarium, and you don't want your aggregator to get full with raw meat and stuff because you don't have dead storage, you set it to ignore it and it won't pull it. But let's go ahead and throw our Griffin in there and show you that. So as a new player, this is what you would want first. You'd want to tame you some Griffins and throw them in here. Mana Garmers give element dust, and I think the Ferox gives element dust as well. But as to my knowledge, the Griffins are the only ones that give you element shards. Let me double check that real quick. Yes, the Griffins are the only ones that can give element shards. So as you can see, there's element shards in here. It's on the potential generated resources. So for the Griffin, it has a 10% chance to produce 25 element shards every tick. So for every 15 minutes and 20 seconds, it has a chance to produce 25 element shards. You can put more dinos in here and it will increase that timer. Let me go upstairs and grab some more Griffins and I'll show you that. And I've had a test running on my Patreon server to see what the best output, or dino count rather, gave you the best output in the Vivarium. We'll go over that in a minute, but let's throw these Griffins in here. So right now our timer was at 15 minutes and 20 seconds. Now it's at 15 minutes and 40 seconds. So depending on the size of the dino will depend on how long or the increase in the timer. I'm just going to go ahead and dump the rest of these Griffins in here. This should get the timer around 30 minutes. Yep, 31 minutes and 40 seconds. In my testing, this was the best at producing element shards. There's a chance that having 100 in here, if every single dino was able to get element shards, it would obviously outproduce one with 50 in it. But if you put 100 Griffins in here, it's going to be producing every 45 minutes. So it produces slower, but you do have a higher chance. Instead of having only 50 in a Vivarium, you have 100 in a Vivarium, each having 10% chance versus the 50 having 10% chance. So, I mean, there's a chance that you could get more. There's also a chance you could get less. It's just however you want to play, whatever you want to do. If you want to have a giant spot set up for Vivariums and you can have a whole bunch of them with 50 in it, you know, that's up to you. But this timer will send element shards, or will get produce element shards. It will be pulled to my aggregator, and my aggregator will send it to my dead storage, and I think it's every 30 minutes and 40 seconds. There is some issues with these dinos in the Vivariums. Sometimes if you transfer a potted dino to a different map, it will not give you resources in the Vivarium. You will have to raise new dinos on that map, or unpod them and repod the dino. That can also help if you happen to come across that particular issue. So we've talked about the griffins producing element shards. So what I have done is I've went through and prioritized the resources that were most important to me, and I set up a list of all of the resources that can be produced in the vivarium and the dinos that produce them, and I have a little Excel spreadsheet set up for that, so I know how many vivariums I need set to the island, to scorched earth, and to aberration to produce the optimal amount of resources. I think it's aberration. Yeah, aquatic dinos in aberration produce raw metal, and magmasaurs produced metal ingots. So having extra of those to make sure my base, I get enough metal to keep me from having to go do metal runs, quite frankly. That having dino or snails producing org poly and achatina paste. Carnivores on aberration produce obsidian, so having enough of that. It's a balancing act. It's whatever you want to prioritize for your base. I normally start, when I go to another map, I normally take a vivarium over there with an aggregator and a dead storage and just start collecting element shards. That way I can come back in a few days and actually do stuff over there after I've built my little outpost, help with cave runs, boss fights, etc. Especially on maps like Aberration, where getting element is a little more difficult, and even the island or other maps, it's easy on Gen 2 and Extinction, but the other maps can be a little more challenging depending on how far you've progressed into the game. I will go ahead and throw a list of all the resources that the vivarium can produce here in just a minute. That is the S Plus vivarium, guys. Remember, stay tuned if you want to see all the resources that this structure can produce. And remember, when you're using this, you have to have an aggregator, and you have to have its collection option set to collect from vivarium. Otherwise, it will not pull resources from it, and they will just go off into the void like they never existed. So please keep that in mind. So when you're looking at these pictures, it has it divided into herbivore, carnivore, and aquatic. These are the resources for the island. These are the resources for scorched earth that can be generated for herbivores, carnivores, and aquatic dinos. And then here is a list of the resources that you can get from aberration, and this is just any specific carnivore or aquatic dino. So in these next three photos, you'll see a list of each specific dino that can produce resources, and this is the percent chance that they can drop that resource, the resource that they drop, and how much of that resource is produced every tick if it does drop it. For gotchas, it will produce the resources that gotcha can produce, so that will help. If you guys found the video useful, please like. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys, and have a good one.